Hi, everybody. This is Leigh Daniel with this is legal. This is not legal advice. I was about to say this is just legal advice and completely get us all in trouble. This is not legal advice. Practical advice for before, during, and after the divorce. And Allison, you want to introduce yourself and then introduce Karin?
Oh yeah, fair enough. Hi everyone, I'm Allison Reiner. I'm your Loved Again coach, and yeah, I work with women who are still married and trying to work out whether they want to stay married and how that's going to work out for them, how to take responsibility for their own happiness within their relationship and within their life in general. So yeah, great topic for my my followers today. And over to Karin. Karin's going to come and talk to us about her ideas on how we can keep marriage fresh, how we can use our intuition to really sort of work out what's best for us within our marriage, because it's always about us. It's never about the relationship as a whole. So over to you, Karin.
Yeah. Hi, and thank you for inviting me. I work with women mainly on their wisdom, I guess, on women's wisdom, because what I so often find is that women tend to think that in order to be really powerful, they have to use all these masculine qualities, and they have to push and they have to demand, and they're often not that good at that. So when they try to do that, it doesn't work out well. But what they are good at is feminine wisdom, and I teach them what that is and how they can use it to their benefit.
Well, and I'm going to be, since I work with both men and women, I'm going to be asking us to keep in mind that men have inner wisdom as well. Absolutely. And so I want us to just think about, as we continue to talk about, how we can use that inner wisdom to help us navigate either before the divorce or during the divorce or after the divorce. Because for me, I see a lot of clients that come in and want to ask me what they should do when really they have the answer, right? I mean, Allison, you probably see the same thing when you work with people, that a lot of the times the answers are within. Don't you agree?
Well, the answers are already there. The problem a lot of the time is we don't actually want to face the answer. Already when a client comes, or a potential client comes for that sort of initial conversation with me, they already know what they want.
Right.
And they know what they're not prepared to do. And it's just a case of being able to bring that out for them and let them work through it themselves, so that the answer is absolutely clear to them. I've tried this, and this. This is the result. Therefore, I can now throw my hands up and say, okay, I'm making the right choice. So it's always about just, getting back to that. You're not trusting the wisdom, which is what Karin's going to talk about. So used to pushing it down and pushing it down and pushing it down. So often, again, when you start to dig and unpick it, they can see years beforehand or months beforehand that things just aren't working, but they've managed to shut up, silence that voice, or push it away, or get busy with something else, so that they don't actually have to face what the problem is. And I think it's not just women, I think it's men as well that have the same thing. So we talk about women a lot, but I think men find themselves in the same place. Maybe they find it more difficult because they're not used to even that sort of that intuitive thought, if you like, that they're very sort of decision based.
So Karin, so I know that you work a lot with intuition, and that's one of the things I love about your work, is that really tuning in. Like for me, I'm always going so quickly that I have to slow down to listen to that inner wisdom. So tell us, what is the start? If you how do you start even thinking about intuition, or what do you think that is? What is intuition?
Intuition is really your inner knowing that is not tainted by all the thoughts up here. That's really what it is. It's nothing spooky. It's we all have it, but we overcomplicate things by overthinking them. So we tend to resort always to the voices in our head and think that they know best, and usually they do not. But the thing is that from a very early age, and in our educational system, we are always told to think, right? So that is always that our thoughts and our brain are always put on a pedestal. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't use our brain. Obviously we should, but the brain tends to put us in a fear state.
Oh yeah.
Because part of the brain is designed for survival. So it's always looking for trouble, as it were.
Yeah.
And so our thoughts are often fear-based, and fear is hardly ever going to help us come to a good decision, to a wise decision.
Right.
So what we need to do is literally, like you say, Leigh, is slow down, focus on the heart space so that it becomes quieter here, and then just ask yourself the question, what do I need right now? What do I need right now? And wait for the answer.
Because that would save so much time and money if you just ask your inner self. Because a lot of times people come to me and they'll say, should I get divorced? And they've been in my office for an hour telling me how miserable they are. Why are they asking me that? And I'll usually say, you know the answer to this.
Yeah.
You know, you already know what you need to do. And it's fear of change. It's fear of what their family's going to think. It's fear of starting a new life. It's fear of, can I survive? So it is all those anxious thoughts, right? And what about you, Allison?
But it's also fear of making the wrong decision, because when you've been in that place of pushing away your intuition or pushing it down and ignoring it for years and years and years, it's there, and yes, you think it might be the right thing, but what if I get it wrong? You don't trust it anymore. So it's a case of, for me anyway, going back and building that trust in yourself and in your guts, or you talk about your heart space. For me, it's always happens in my gut. Really getting to trust that again, and it happens quite far away from you. You have to start. You can't go for the big decisions immediately. I think you have to start with the little ones out there and just retrain your gut or your heart or whatever it is that you, wherever it is you feel it, so that you're then in a position of being able to know, to get that knowing that Karin was talking about.
Yeah. And talking about divorce, of course, whether or not to get divorced, in both decisions, there's fear involved, right?
Right.
So if that is your choice, if you've made it about that, whether to go or to stay, you get stuck between a rock and a hard place, right? Yeah. So really what you should think about first probably is, what do I want and need from my life? Right? And not
before, Allison.
That's exactly where I start people with, and it's funny, and that's why I wanted to talk about this today, because Karin and I in Amsterdam were having exactly this conversation, because a lot of the time, or a lot of the things I'm seeing coming up, you have these themes that are recurring every so often, and what I'm seeing a lot at the moment is people who are asking the question, should I stay and should I go? They do all the work on themselves. Nothing changes dramatically enough for them to be comfortable staying, but they're still not prepared to leave. So it's exactly that place. Okay, so now I'm here. I know what I've got. I know who I am, but I'm still, and it's fine to make a decision, in my opinion anyway. It's fine to say, okay, I have all the facts now about myself and about everything else, and I'm still not prepared to take a step out of the marriage, but how do I make myself happy within that decision? So, and that's exactly, that was one of the reasons that we wanted Karin on, because it was a conversation that we'd already had, and I thought it would be useful. It was useful for me to hear, but I think it's useful for the people that are listening to hear as well.
Sure. Yeah. So what? And most of the people that I see are already in the space of, I'm ready to go. They're already in that place of, They just want me to say the words, right? I mean, they're already, they're there with their retainer in their back pocket, or, and they're ready to go. And so that you both work in a different space. So what do you tell people when they're not quite ready?
Me?
Yeah.
I usually try and get them to a place where they don't feel so scared anymore. So I reassure them. I do a lot of meditative exercises with people to get them to that quiet place where their wisdom resides. And I very often say to them, you cannot get this wrong. You cannot. You go to that place of inner wisdom and you cannot get it wrong. There is no wrong. So that that quietens the mind, because that really is all that needs to happen, to just switch off the fight flight and just, because you've got to go to a place of trust, and also, to feel, okay, so it is okay to stay where I am if I'm not ready to leave that place, as long as I trust myself, if I do not abandon myself, take myself seriously, be there for myself. So a lot of work that I do is around that.
Yeah.
Do not leave yourself. Do not leave your feelings. When you be a good mother to your own feelings and your own needs.
Yeah, and I think especially for men, though, they are conditioned, and women as well, that they can't let their family down, or they can't let, and we talk about this a lot, because I see one of the main reasons people are afraid to leave their relationship is because they say, I'm letting my kids down. And so I recently was talking to someone, and I said, you've gotten your divorce all tied up with all these other social conditions, all these other constraints about your job, about your family, and none of it has to do with what you feel, what you in your heart. It has to do with this sense of obligation, this sense of, if I get divorced, what are the people in my church going to say? I mean, I live in the Bible Belt, so it's not as prevalent as it was, 10 years ago or 15 years ago. People would say, you're going to kick me out of my church if I get a divorce. Yeah. And so they're listening to all of this stuff instead of their inner, knowing.
Yeah. Which is exactly
why. That. What do you tell Allison? What do you tell people?
I think, it's exactly why, what we were talking about before, you know that you're unhappy, you know that this isn't sustainable in the long term, but I'm not prepared, I'm not brave enough, I'm still invested in what other people think about me, or maybe it's even simpler than that. I don't want the kids to be to find themselves being ostracized at school. If I happen to find myself in that sort of situation where people do judge and condemn a divorce or a separation. So that's really an important place to take a step back into yourself and say, how can I make this work for me within the confines? Because there's always happiness. There's that beautiful story, and I can't remember his name it's not a very beautiful story because he was in Auschwitz for all those years, but he found a way of being at peace with himself and being happy in himself, no matter the circumstance outside him. So how can I do that? And that, it might be, I'm not prepared to leave the marriage, but I am prepared to take a damn sight more time for me. If that's weekends away with the girls, weekends on my own with the kids, time away just to do what I need to do, buying cottages, for instance. I was desperate to get the cottage thing in because that's Karin's answer to everything, buy a cottage. But really, if you're not ready to take that step, it's really a case of being ready to crank up your own relationship with yourself in whatever way that works. And that's going to be dependent, I suppose, on the amount of cash, the amount of time, and how young, old, or whether you've got kids or not. But you're really taking that all into account.
Yeah. And tell us, Karin, about the cottage, since Allison brought it up, because some people that are watching, and this video goes out to my email list as well. I mean, you've got tell us about that and about what your intention is around the cottage.
Yeah. So I moved to the south of my country. I live in the Netherlands 4 years ago to join my husband, who'd lived here all his life. And it was always going to be temporary, but we didn't know how temporary. And after 2 years, I got completely fed up with living here, and we both quit our jobs to start a business of our own. And so we were living in each other's pockets, and I could feel that wasn't good for us, especially not for me. And so I got this idea of buying a small cottage in the woods back where I came from. And I did this. So now I spend 2-3 days a week in my cottage, and I work there because, of course, my whole network was in that part of the country, and I left, and I felt it wasn't good for my work either. So I created my own space there, and I go there whenever I feel like being in that part of the country and being alone. And my husband has to ask permission if he wants to join me.
So I think that's great. And it's about, I think, finding a way to nurture yourself. You know, if your need, and I was talking to my friends yesterday about, I recently did a test for somebody about what my emotional needs were, because I hadn't really looked at my own emotional needs. And I said, you know, I have all of these things to fulfill these emotional needs. And if you're not getting those needs met in your marriage, how can you get those needs met, right? Is that kind of what you're, like, you needed, what space, you needed place for creativity, you needed alone time, right?
Yeah, all that. And also when years ago, we were looking to buy a house together, and I expressed that I would love to live in or near the woods, and my husband doesn't like too many trees around him. So this is another thing. I love being in the woods, and he doesn't necessarily need to be there. So I take care of my own needs. Yeah, that's what I do. And this is, I mean, buying a cottage is not, you know, if you have the money, that's a wonderful thing to do, but you can do it in a smaller way. But there's only one person who knows what you need and who can take care of it, and that is you.
So when you talked a second ago about meditation and meditative states, if you're that person who is in the space of not even knowing how to begin to figure out what their needs are, you have so many people out there telling you their own needs. How do you start? How do you start in you say a meditative state, in case people don't know what you're talking about. What do you mean?
Yeah, well, so meditation is like, can be as simple as just, and should be as simple really, as just sitting yourself down, stop taking part in everything that's going on around you, and just feel yourself sit, check in with your body, feel, how does my body feel right now?
And just setting your feet, because this isn't because, you know, being grounded is certainly something that I am not great at. And
right. And grounding,
Allison, I can tell you she's
grounding is simple too. It's just putting both feet on the floor and feel that they're on the floor. You can do all kinds of fancy things, imagine roots growing into the earth, but you don't even have to do that. It's as simple as just feeling your feet on the floor. And I always tell people to breathe deep into their body, and that helps too. But feel your bum on your chair, and just make your experience very physical. Feel that you are a body. That's
it. How do you, when you say breathe deep into your body, what is, I know I'm breaking it down really simplistically, but a lot of people may not be in this, not know what that means. What does that mean? Well,
simply,
take a deep breath?
Yeah, take a deep breath. You can have a shallow breath, and that is like, it doesn't go much further than here. But if you just simply put your hand on your tummy and make sure that your tummy is moving, automatically your breath will drop. It's very simple.
And then what do you do?
And then what you do is, it's if you simply feel your body, because not a lot of people do that, right? Most of the time we're up in our heads and reacting to what's happening outside us, and the body is just there, and we don't register it until in the evening when we're really tired and our feet are hurting or something like that, or when we're really hungry or tummy. But other than that, we don't notice the body. So just notice the body and feel whatever there is to feel. Maybe put a hand on your heart and feel that you have a heartbeat, things like that. And when you've done that, when you've re-entered your body, as it were, with your awareness, then you can simply ask yourself, what am I feeling? And what would be my need right now? And maybe it can be as simple as, I need a nap, or I need some fresh air, or I need a sip of water. It's simple, really simple. Start close by. And don't make it any more complicated than that. And if you do that, if you commit to doing that, I don't know, 3 times a day, in the morning, at lunchtime, and in the evening, and make it really simple, it becomes a habit. And then gradually you will start to notice other needs.
How long do you have to do that for?
Your whole life. Yeah, this is something.
I meant when you
when you do it, it can be a minute.
Okay.
It can be a minute. It doesn't have to look, or as long as you enjoy it. But it can be, if you because people say, I don't have time for meditation. I don't have time for that. I have a busy life. Well, you can take a minute. You can take a minute. I mean, you go to the loo anyway, do it in the loo.
Or even sitting here just now, because as Karin was talking, I was sitting with my back against the chair and actually feeling the chair pressing against my back. Unless you actually give it attention, you forget that there is even something behind you, that you're being held by something behind you. It can be that simple, can't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and I definitely think, because we're all, and especially when people are in a place of marital strife and there's a lot of chaos, they feel that anxiety. I mean, I have people that, you know, I've kidded people that we should have a gumball dispenser of, you know, psychotropic drugs in the front office. Because, first of all, because it's convenient if I get stressed out. No, I'm kidding. But second of all, because so many people go on meds and they're divorced. And, you know, they can't sleep. They need Xanax, or they'll need, you know, or antidepressant or whatever. And if they would just slow down and, you know, because it's very chaotic usually at this time because the kids are feeling the tension. Maybe you're hiding it, trying to hide it from the family or the kids, and fighting and trying to work it out, you know, and it becomes really overwhelming, you know.
Yeah,
also, sorry, Karin.
Now, the trouble is, the reason why it becomes so chaotic is, of course, the circumstances are demanding and there's a lot going on. But the main reason why it becomes chaotic is because we try to solve everything in the head. And the real great solutions do not come from the head, but the mind is telling us, just keep thinking, just keep thinking. That is a way of keeping control. It's not, it's an illusion, but the mind keeps telling us that. And if we stay there, if we keep believing what the mind is telling us, the situation only becomes more chaotic. So I really encourage people to break through that dense fog of the mind, drop into the body, even if it's only for a minute, and just let that all go. Because wisdom does not come from there, it comes from here, or the gut, as Allison says. So just to quiet the mind a bit and let the heart or the gut speak.
Well, and how does the gut speak, Allison? Because that sounds kind of risky.
I think it can be. No, for me, you get that feeling, and you know, sometimes when you're really disconnected with yourself, and when you're, because the other thing that people tend to do when they're unhappy or they're not enjoying a situation is get busy to avoid it. They get so busy with so many other things, so of course they're exhausted anyway, but it avoids actually having to deal with what's happening. Yeah, but for me, my gut, you feel it, that there's the kind of almost like the butterflies, and you get the good butterflies and you get the bad butterflies, and you get that sort of tightening in your stomach that says this isn't good. But what do? We just push through and we carry on regardless, trying to solve it, as Karin says, trying to solve it up here rather than trying to, you know, just take a step back and say, okay, please let me know what to do. You know, I do that quite often. You know, I'm taking a step away from me. It's not me that's going to solve this, but let me know. Give me something to work with. And sometimes that's enough to take a step away from your own thinking. You start looking around, you know, for a sign or for somebody to say something that resonates, and you think, okay, well, that could be something worth stepping into or following. So yeah, for me, it's kind of like that. It's feeling what's going on inside rather than ignoring it completely. As Karin says, getting back into your head.
Yeah, and also not be afraid not to act for a while.
Yeah, and everybody,
you need to keep doing, but you should allow yourself not to know for a while and not know what to do for a while. Just stay there until you know.
Karin, you are just, this is so good for me, especially because I'm busy like that, and I'm, you know, like recently, you know, we had our event in Amsterdam, and I really was impacted by people like you and Teresa and Fiona saying, you know, about self-care, about wisdom, about slowing down. Really, that's what made the biggest difference for me. When I came home, I'm like, you know what? I need to just slow down. I need to just take a breath. But I think especially, and I live in Huntsville, and a lot of the people that will see this, because this will go out to my email list, or in Huntsville, and we are a smart bunch up here in Huntsville. There's lots of engineers, lots of really smart people, lots of leaders, and we get in this place of, like you said, you got to think who's going to think faster. And I think somehow we identify slowing down with weakness, or slowing down with not staying ahead. We're also type A, and how can you, what do you say about that? Because yesterday I had a trial, and a woman, I had a witness, she looked terrified. Now I know why she looked terrified. This is a powerful female, and she was terrified. And I know that she was overthinking. Now I know what happened. But how do you get out of that type A-ness to just, what do you say about that?
Well, again, it's a fear of losing control, right? Because that is what you know, and what has worked to a certain extent. And the other thing, the slowing down and the wisdom, etc., that is unfamiliar territory. So you will always default to what you know. So it takes a bit of risk taking, and that's why I say start with a minute. But the thing is, if you do this, if you take some time out, if you slow down a bit, you get much more resilient. So you can still have your type A doing, but you will be much more effective if you also tap into that quiet space and that place of wisdom and trust.
Yes, that's it. It's having faith and trust that you can. And I also think that, like, when you're going through a divorce, you think you have to have all the, you've got to run the numbers. You got to crunch the numbers. Can I live? And it's such a busy kind of thing, right? But if you could just slow down and realize you didn't have to have, we have lots of spreadsheets going on.
Sometimes even slowing down is too big a step. So you can take it back, even closer to yourself, and set the intention that that's what you want to do. I don't know how to do it, because that's the other thing. All these people that are constantly in their head, I don't know how to do that thinking, that feeling thing rather than the thinking thing. How about I just set the intention to do it, to feel what that might be like, and that's often enough just to give yourself some respite. Whilst you're working out what the hell it actually means.
And then just allow yourself to feel, like I know that I struggled for many years myself with letting myself feel. I was very closed off, and allowing yourself to have some positive emotion, and allowing yourself to feel. And for a while, I would cry at the drop of a hat. I'd watch a commercial, But once because I don't know, I guess, and I'm in a very, it's not really a male-dominated profession, but it's a very hard kind of, profession where, like you were saying earlier, Karin, kind of push. I got to fight back. I got to be as aggressive as the men, And I think that's a lot of the women in this town are in those leadership positions, and they feel that, they're engineers, they work for the military, and they're in that space, and they feel like they've got to be hard.
Yeah.
And what about you, Allison? Do you see, and that's a whole other discussion about feminine energy. And Karin, I would love for you to come back and talk about that. Definitely.
Love to.
But do you see that, Allison, that women get into a place of like competing with their husbands and the problems that causes?
My clients tend to be a little bit older. So maybe the competing stage is gone. But yeah, when you were talking, I certainly have been through that competing stage. I certainly was incredibly competitive with boyfriends, with husbands, with everybody. It kind of, not just the title, but also the money, and also the amount of recognition you got. I very much fell into that. Because I didn't know any other way. That's what I saw. I did work in a very male-dominated industry for a long time. I was the only woman there, so I didn't know that you could be any different. But then I took it into my personal life as well. So it was, for me, it was all about competition. And if you didn't win, you're really lost. There was no. It caused me a lot of trouble.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think that's a huge topic. And I see it, especially in Huntsville, as a big problem with And I know why, because I'm in that kind of same space. But I think somewhere inside of us, especially as women, now taking Karin's role, we want that softness, right? We want to have that, we want that, we have that feminine stuff. That's really that's a technical term, in fact, feminine stuff.
The feminine stuff.
But I think that's one of our needs. And if we don't ever get in touch with our inner guidance, then we don't get to that point, right?
Yeah. And I know certainly I did, therefore I assume many, many, many thousands of other women are constantly fighting against that. Mm-hmm. You've got the sort of structure that you live by. That's how you live, because that's how you see everyone around about you living. But it feels wrong. So you fight against what feels wrong to do what you see everybody else doing. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of taking a step away from that, isn't it? Taking a step away from what you think is right and going back to yourself. Mm-hmm. That takes courage, I suppose. First of all, it takes awareness, because for me, for the longest time, I wasn't even aware that there were two different ways. There was only the way that I was operating at that time. Mm-hmm. So first of all, once you get the awareness, then it's a bit of courage to trust.
It does take a lot of courage, actually, because from an early age, you're conditioned to feel that the masculine way is the better way, right? And we're the weaker sex, and we're told not to cry because crying is weak and all that. And so we are taught to turn against our own emotions. Whereas emotions, why do we have them? Because they're telling us something important. So it's very unhealthy not to heed your emotions, but we're taught not to.
Well, when you're in a strong feminine role and you're being paid to be as badass, as I've said a little bad word, but to be tough and to be aggressive, and you can't show your emotion because you don't want people to go, you're weaker than the men, then you got to turn it back on somehow, right?
Yeah, but the thing is that you can undo your own conditioning when you decide my emotions are perfectly okay because I have them. You can be a badass with emotions.
And then that sounds like real
fun. That sounds like fun.
That sounds like, I know. I think there's a lot. I mean, Karin, you are certainly, you're like the awakening the wise woman within. You do like epitomize like this wise woman to me. It really is, it's really an honor to have you talk to us today, because I just see you having such wisdom and grace, so graceful. And so tell everybody, Karin, how they can find you and how they can find out more about the things that you teach.
Well, you can find me on almost all social media. On Facebook, my name is Karin Bosveld, and when you Google that name or put it in search, you will find me. There are not that many around who are this active on the internet. So Facebook, Twitter, my website karinbosveld.com, or just shoot me an email at karin@karinbosveld.com. I'm quite easy to find.
Well, and I'm super interested in that cottage. You have a retreat coming out. You want to tell everybody about that?
That's right. So I work with people in the cottage in the heart of the Netherlands, but only one-on-one or in a very small group. But I'm taking women to the south of France once a year. So far, it's always been in October. Professional women who want to get in touch with that inner wisdom and strengthen it and work from there and use it as their secret weapon, as it were. So we're going, I think it's the third week of October. If people want to know more about that, it's karinbosveld.com/wise women-retreat.
It sounds amazing, and I really want to come and go there, and then we have something in Ibiza. So I would love to. It's a lot of time in Europe, but
Bless you.
Sorry, guys. Sorry, video viewers.
Bless you.
And what about you? Where can people find you?
Much like Karin, I'm all over social media, so you can find me on Facebook. You can come and join my group, Loved Again and Forever. Check out my website, AllisonReiner.com, or again, send me an email at AllisonReiner.com. God, that's a mouthful, isn't it? I'm going to have to do something with that.
So thanks everybody for watching today and for listening, and I hope that you guys have a wonderful day, and thank you so much, Karin, for being here with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, ladies.
Bye, bye-bye. Bye, everyone.